Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another Crooked Chicken video. Today's video we're going to be covering the latest episode of Fear the Walking Dead, episode 9, titled Sanctuary. Now, this episode was all about Dwight facing his past, facing the demons of his past, facing the ghosts, and returning home back to the Alexandria, Virginia area where he told Sherry he was going to go after they split up, because after the death of their son Finch, he just decided that they could not be together because being together didn't work out for them. It didn't work out for the people around them because people always suffered, people always died, and he just believed that their relationship had become toxic and it just caused pain and anguish wherever they went. So he decided it was not meant to be and he was done with it and he was going to go home. And I believe with the way that he returns home, because when he goes home, he's in a very dark place and he's really just kind of given up, as anyone would after losing their child. He returns back to the home that him and Sherry shared when they were together in the early days before the end of the world, and he kind of sets up camp there only to be interrupted by someone else seeking shelter, this random guy named Jay, and he comes to the home. Dwight takes him hostage or just kind of pins him to the ground with a gun to his face saying, you know, who are you, who sent you? Are you playing me? Because this guy goes on to say that he was robbed by a group in the area and they took his bag which held his insulin because he is a diabetic. And this all kind of throws back to the early days when Dwight, Sherry, and her sister were making a run from Negan, and he went back in there and tried to get her insulin because she was also a diabetic. So it's kind of a throwback to that. And we all know that that did not end well. So much like the episode that was focused around Morgan, King County, this was about Dwight going home to put those final pieces of his past to rest, to move on, and that's what this episode really does. So he goes home, he runs into this guy, he successfully gets his insulin, and the place that he has to go is really facing that past because these guys have taken up residence within the old sanctuary. Now, as far as Dwight knows, when he left at the end of the war, he thought that people were still going to thrive within the sanctuary. They were going to live there. They were going to be under Rick's new rule, and it would become a place of positivity versus what it used to be. But he comes home, it's in utter ruins, so he has no idea that that place has fallen. Negan is, for all he knows, is dead. So he gets in there, and it's nothing like it used to be. It's not the fortress it used to be, so there's only a small group of about 5 or 6 guys holding up in this place. Gets in there, gets this guy's insulin, gets back to his house where he tells him to meet him, and unfortunately the guy did not make it. He had died from the lack of insulin, and he was there as a walker. Dwight kills him, and he kind of has a breakdown moment where we see a lot of flashbacks in this episode, or just little glimpses of the Walking Dead world way back during the wartime, where Dwight just has this moment where he is just done. He says, Daryl, you should have killed me when you had the chance. This is his big moment where he just wishes he was dead. He wishes it would end because he's suffering from the loss of his son, from him and Sherry splitting up. Even though he did it, it was still very difficult for him to do. So as he's having this moment, Sherry, June, and Dove roll up, all while searching for him because they want him to come back with them, back to face Troy, and he is totally against this idea. He doesn't believe he can help anybody because he failed his own son. This is just this thing hanging over his head. He doesn't believe there's a way to really honor him because he doesn't believe in himself anymore. And so the whole episode's really kind of focusing Sherry and June, not so much Dove. Dove's kind of a bitch in this episode a little bit, but I've never really cared for her to begin with, but she has her own little arc in it. But the whole episode is really about trying to convince him to come back with them. And they go through this little argument through the night. They wake up the next morning to find that Dove has taken the truck that they had, tried to get away, but then she makes her way back because she is shot by these men that Dwight had since encountered the night before, where when he was in the sanctuary, he had a lot of, I want to say, PTSD moments where he sees that the things that they had stolen were actually in his old room, or near his old room, I want to say. And as he's making his escape, he comes across the furnace, the same furnace that Negan used to scar him on the side of his face. And as he's sitting there staring into this furnace, he's having these flashbacks of when he was burned, when Negan threw that doctor into the furnace for going against him or just failing him. And as he's doing this, as he's drifting in and out, he has a gun put at the back of his head by one of these guys named Philip. And really without hesitation, Dwight turns around, sidesteps this guy, and throws him into the furnace, giving him the same fate as that doctor way back in the day. And this kind of sets off a small chain of events, because after that morning, after Dove returns to them, she's got a bullet injury to her abdomen. These guys roll up, say, hey, you killed our friend, you come with us and we'll help save your other friend. And Sherry does not buy this for a second. She steps up, says, nice try, asshole, and pops a shot at them. And they get into a little bullet exchange there for a second, and then they get in the truck and make their way back to the sanctuary. And they said they're about 20 miles, I guess, from the sanctuary, so they get there while these other guys are on foot. So they have a little break in between all of this, and this is where they go there. They try to get the bullets out of Dove, and they just have a lot of flashback moments where Sherry and Dwight really get into these arguments where Dwight has really just given up. He is ready to give his life in whatever way possible, because during the whole attempt to get this bullet out, the building starts rattling, which is kind of silly and crazy at the same time, because the thing that is causing this is just a herd of walkers pounding against the remains of the sanctuary, because this building has become so unstable over time that just a herd of walkers up against it is causing the building to fluctuate and vibrate, and just causing it not to be a safe space to attempt to get this bullet out. So we have this whole thing where Dove, or Odessa as she reveals her real name, that she does not have any faith in any of these people. June doesn't have faith in herself because she lost her finger back in the train car during the first part of the season, and just her faith was shattered by the loss of Finch and the loss of I think another kid plus her own child way back in the beginning of the apocalypse. And just she is completely not prepared to make an attempt to do the surgery to get her out. Dwight and Sherry both get into it. Sherry locks Dwight in their old room, which he does revisit, that he has a small stash of bullets in the wall. And they just get into a back and forth, and he points at the infinity symbol on the wall that he drew for her, and they just have this back and forth exchange about what could have been and honoring their son. And she eventually locks him in the room, goes out there and to face these walkers herself. So we see that she kind of has a death wish as well. And just, she's out there, she's ready to get herself killed to defend this building to save Odessa. And June finds Dwight, lets him out, and they both are out there, and they're having this argument while they're killing walkers. And this is where eventually they are confronted by those men. They get their way back in the building. I was really kind of hoping, even though it was a very small chance, that these men were a few surviving saviors. Now, the chances of that very slim, because obviously it's been many years since the Savior War, and a lot of the saviors that we saw, some of the nastier ones, I guess, they were held accountable for their attacks or the parts that they played during their reign over everybody. They were taken off the night, and they were executed for the things that they did. So the chances of them being alive, and on top of that, we also saw that Carol had actually executed a handful of them that were left too after they had run off after the whole thing with Rick trying to bring everybody together. So naturally, these guys get in the building. They have kind of a one-up moment, but the building itself is falling down around them. The lead guy gets a leg up on Dwight, but it's very short-lived because he has him pinned up against the furnace where his friend is still inside, all walkered out, and he gives him another slip, opens that door, and that walker gets that guy down, kills him, and all those guys are dealt with. So they were just guys of opportunity, I guess, to play the villain role in this episode, to kind of give Dwight a reason to want to push forward. And after that, they all take shelter within the furnace as the sanctuary is falling down around them. And then they convince Dwight to go back with them, and they're going to go face Troy. And that's really the episode in a nutshell. And the whole episode was really about Dwight facing his past. And we see that the ghost of the sanctuary, ghost of what was, is really what he had to deal with. And that was the last remnants of Negan's reign come down, and it's nothing but a pile of rubble now. So it was really kind of probably cathartic for Dwight to face that and to see the things that haunted him probably ever since he left there come down and just a big crash. There's nothing left of that part of his life. He can put that to rest, and it was very similar to the way that they did with Morgan. He went home, he dealt with his wife and his son, he put them both to rest, and he was able to move on. and now he's out there on the search for Rick. Hopefully we see him again. I don't know. So really, this episode 2, with Dwight and Sherry, they keep saying that with these final few episodes of Fear the Walking Dead, we're going to get conclusive closures to our characters of this show. I'm still hoping that we do see Dwight and I guess Sherry now, because I was really convinced that she was going to die, but it didn't turn out that way. We can see that they're alive and they're going to go through this war with Troy, and I think that we could see them possibly go into a crossover to give them a closure, or even, I think it's 50-50. I think we could possibly see them in a crossover, but it's kind of, now that I've seen what they did with this story, I think that it's more leaning towards their story is going to come to a proper close and we won't see them again, because it would be kind of pointless for them to show up in Dead City. As much as I would have liked to have seen Dwight confront Negan, maybe even forgive him for the things that he did after he sees that he's changed, he's not the same guy. But I think that would kind of cancel out this episode where he came home, he dealt with his past, and digging that back up facing Negan, it would just make this episode for naught. It would just make this episode kind of pointless. And so I doubt we see him. I think we're going to get a closeout for his character. Could we see him again? I think the chance is still up there, but it's a little bit slimmer now that they've done this and him dealing with the demons of his past and kind of move past them now. And he's going off to fight this war, and maybe him and Sherry will honor their son, because one little thing that they threw in there after they survived the collapse of the sanctuary, they come out and there's actually a finch bird sitting on top of that furnace. So it's a call out to their son, kind of a way that they take that as a sign that they need to go take care of this problem to help their friends and honor their son the way that would make the most sense. But anyways, guys, that is my breakdown and my review of this episode. It was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy when they connect past shows and they just take a trip down memory lane with these particular shows and visit these old scenes. And we got those flashback scenes where we saw bits of Daryl, we saw bits of Negan and Carl, just bits and pieces from that time. And I really enjoyed it in that sense, the nostalgia of it. And I really hope they take these last 3 episodes and do something similar to where we get a proper goodbye of Madison, maybe even reuniting with Alicia if she's still alive. That's still the mystery. That's kind of the big draw point of these last few episodes, that if we're going to see Alicia just pop up out of nowhere or be held prisoner or whatever they're doing. So it's really interesting the direction they're going. I'm really looking forward to these last episodes. It looks like they could possibly do it right and do this show justice, with the fact that before this there was a lot of episodes and seasons that people just didn't enjoy. But again, that was my review, my recap. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like down below, leave a comment, and if you feel so inclined, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. So until next time, guys, I will see you later. Bye.